We've got 3 matches left here for the QPL Stage 1 Finals for day number 1, but set your alarms and get some good sleep tonight because we definitely have more Quake action coming all weekend long. Returning to the desk, we got Flea and ZSX. Lethal had to take a break from this one. Apparently couldn't stomach the shoey that 40 did earlier. We'll let him recover for that, so thank you, Dan. We appreciate that. Coming up next, a round of 16 to continue things, and we were talking a little bit about it, that North America is putting on a pretty decent show today, but this one should be a good one too. We've got cha1n, who was undoubtedly the most improved in the Americas league over the course of stage 1, and he's going up against CNZ, and there's cha1n right there. But Fleet, love to hear from you. We got to watch the drastic improvement in cha1n. What do you think going into this matchup?
I mean, cha1n has just been getting better every single week, it feels like, and a lot of people have been waiting for his really big breakthrough at a finals, right? He very often or regularly makes it to the top 6, top 3 NA, but then when he actually gets into the very final stage, he doesn't manage to push on through. Last time he made it far at a LAN was at the Quake World Championship, the Stage 4 finals, and then he just lost to both the Maestro boys, Razy and Wenger, without taking a single map. So I think that for himself, he also wants to prove exactly what he's capable of.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it feels to me that cha1n, of all the players here, has probably the most eyes on him to see what he can do, particularly now we're in cross regions so early on, well, from the off, really. So I've got big hopes for him, and I hope he can sustain the momentum he's got from the stage so far.
Well, his opponent in this round of 16 matchup, it was entered into the QPL at the start of this stage during the Quake World Championships, won his challengers match. You know, CNZ, he had some amazing plays. We were talking a little bit about his style, how it's so very unique to him, and how he is a never give up type individual. We've seen him, of course, lose some games, but there's also been some games that you did not think that he was going to win in the first few minutes, but manages to hang on, stay in it, and bring it back. Is like this one of the biggest challenges I think you could put in front of CNZ in the upper bracket? Absolutely, because I think, based off of how cha1n has been playing, you saw that 8-1 record, only losing to Rafa, certainly, force to be reckoned with. So, Dan, I'll go to you first. CNZ, what would you say about CNZ?
I think he's quite underrated, really. Like, the EU side has just been absolutely chaotic this time, and you can see there, like, he only got 1-3-0 against him, and that was against Wenger. Apart from that, he was competitive against absolutely everybody in the QPL EU side, so that's no slight against him. And we saw how well cha1n did in the Quake World Championship. Well, CNZ wasn't too far off that placement, and that was coming in off of the back of the challengers placing. So he's clearly got all of the required skill set to take it on, and he's somebody that's always been cited as a bit of an underdog, but capable of beating absolutely anybody on their day, so to have those results is truly respectable.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the same thing at the Quake World Championships, right? CNZ making it all the way from the relegation games, qualifying himself for the finals, and then he did lose first to Rafa and then to the Hang shortly afterwards, but still, that was an incredible run, beating some absolute top-tier players. And one of the biggest strengths that, in my opinion, CNZ has is just his mental fortitude. He can really take a beating and stay focused. We have seen him just have terribly unlucky things happen to him. I think we can all still remember when he just jumped off the map at Molten Falls, when he was so close to just winning the entire series. And he's capable of just overcoming that and keeping on playing. So that is an incredibly important trait to have when it comes to top-tier Quake. That unshakability, that protection against tilt. And I think that could really help him in his matchup against cha1n.
Yeah, and this is going to be a battle of styles for certain. I mean, cha1n and CNZ, certainly much different in terms of styles. And really, to be able to talk about that, let's check out the picks and bans, because that will play a large part into this best of 3. Deep Embrace, Awoken, and Corrupted Keeps are our maps.
Wow,
Dan,
okay.
what do you think?
That's a lot of aggression all down the line, really.
Oh, yeah.
We've got You got maps you pick if you want to fight, and you got champions you pick if you want to fight. Scale Bear versus Geel on Deep Embrace is going to be an absolute bloodbath, whichever way it goes. And then moving on to Awoken, we got two pretty unusual, an unusual matchup in Nyx and Athena. I don't think I've ever seen that matchup on Awoken. Two light champions and then finishing up on Corrupted Keep. I really like the Sorlag to counter what the Strogon Pika brings.
Yes, that definitely makes a good point there. I have seen plenty of Nyx on Awoken, I've seen a lot of Athena on Awoken as well, but them against each other, that is something that I can't remember seeing in the QPL before. So that is going to be a good matchup for sure. And then finally Corrupted Keep, Sorlag. Well, big stack, but both Sorlag and Strog are of course very mobile. Still, cha1n, I think, has got a pretty good pick for this map. Strog very strong simply due to the fact that there is no railgun on Corrupted Keep, and that gives you that damage from above. So probably gonna give the last map slightly to cha1n, but other than that, this is really a toss-up in terms of champion and map picks.
You know, I would agree. I think the one thing that has been super impressive watching cha1n over the course of stage 1 has been his Athena play. I think he's uniquely one of the best aggressors with Athena, at least as far as I've seen. So I'm very curious about that map 2 on Awoken. That's one that we'll see for certain. Dan, you want to throw out a prediction here? Any thoughts?
2-1 cha1n. I think CNZ definitely got what it takes to go the distance here. The thing cha1n struggles with is really capitalizing upon his opponents, really taking the games away from them. And if you give CNZ a lifeline, he'll grind his teeth in. Grind his teeth in? No, he'll grind his feet in. You know, he'll stick around. He'll give a good fight. And I think there is a big clash, as we talked about there, in terms of styles. And I think cha1n will actually find it hard to break CNZ down.
I'm gonna agree with Dan right there, 2-1. I still think it's going to be cha1n ultimately winning this series, but you definitely can't count CNZ out. He really is one of the best players to deal with cha1n's playstyle, and I think that the Canadian has his work cut out for him.
I'll add to it. I agree. I would go 2-1 cha1n. I think it's next to impossible to see a shutout here by either player, just based off of the clash of styles that we're going to have here. Either way, I am very excited. This is one of 3 matches that we've got left for the day. So ZSX, please, if you want to take a seat and get the best one in the house, watch all the action. We'll come back to you when we close this one out. But Flea, I am certainly very... Come on, get CSX out of here. I can't.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, man. I mean, I can't. He's just going to stare at me into my soul if you just leave him there. It's like, I'm watching you. Flea, this is, you know, when I first got a chance to see how the brackets were going to play out, this was one that I was super excited about. When we talked about cha1n's performance in the Americas region, one of the things that we talked about specifically for the stage 1 finals was this is a different cha1n that a lot of these players from the EU and CIS regions have had a chance to play. So I'm really curious to see how they are going to adapt to what I would say is kind of a new and improved cha1n.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a bit of uncharted territory for both of these players, because as far as I'm aware, neither CNZ or cha1n have played each other in the Quake Pro League. So this is going to be a bit of an unknown for both of these players. Very often when you've got experience going up against the same opponents, you kind of learn their playstyle, you know their weaknesses. And while you can, of course, review VODs, it's never the same thing as actually being able to play them. So I think that when we start off the series, we're probably going to see both players give each other a lot of respect. Neither wants to be the first to really mess up and lose points, so they're just gonna, you know, feel and see how it goes before really committing to a fight. That's at least what I'm expecting to see.
Which I love, because Deep Embrace doesn't give you that much room to show your opponent respect. So I'm pretty excited about that, see how it goes, especially with 2 heavies. We are launching into this game. It is certainly going to be a good one. Make sure that you predict who you think is going to win each match. And GLHFs are exchanged, and we are officially going live. It's CNZ versus cha1n, and we're going to start things off looking through the eyes of cha1n. Now, Keel's been, you know, doing work on this map, but as you mentioned, I don't know that I've seen a Keel scale versus on Deep Embrace here. It could be something completely new.
Absolutely, and we're definitely seeing more heavy champions being played on this map than I think some people were expecting, but we saw the Hang put on a real masterclass with Keel earlier, and now the Rails, they are relentless. cha1n just waiting and reading his opponent perfectly.
Wow.
83% Rails has only missed a single shot so far, cha1n, and that's exactly what he needs to do. CNZ still tried using the bull rush to get to safety, but was unable to do so.
I mean, 6 shots, 5 of those rails hit. That's one hell of a way to kick off a series. And they continue to come out using those pineapples to zone, putting CNZ way in the back. However, CNZ very, very smartly coming out to the middle area, pulling out that LG and actually trapping cha1n, not giving him really much room to move or even to retreat. And we're going to tie things up pretty quickly. Still, Flea, this is that level of respect that I think we were talking about right here. But now the game truly begins.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, as you said yourself, there's only so much respect you can give your opponent on a map this small, but still, you can see we haven't had that many really close engagements, right? It's been pretty long distance rails and then an LG to finish it up, but both players are leaving a decent, respectful amount of distance between each other. But now CNZ has got to be careful. 10 points of health left. There isn't much left for him to restack. He's just got to try and avoid cha1n. Good little rail right there. But a risky play, and ultimately still only at 60 points of health. Railable even now.
I mean, these two are definitely playing the angles. You can see from the bottom level, still, you know, out from cha1n's point of view and CNZ's point of view, just peeking through a couple of pixels where they could land a rail, and a few of those have connected already. But CNZ playing this one very smart, being quiet, puts on those ninja slippers, and the LG comes out though, came down those stairs and was not expecting to see cha1n there. cha1n is going to be picking up his second frag, making it 2-1, 2 minutes and 24 seconds into this matchup. Still a lot of room here on Deep Embrace. A great direct rocket from CNZ. He's not going to get that follow-up rail, and that is okay. cha1n is just going to happily wait over in the side, parking himself over there. And these two, this is that respect that we were talking about right here.
Yep. And that brief engagement earlier just really shows what kind of a player CNZ can be. Just hugging the pillar, dodging for such a long time that cha1n just completely gave up on trying to catch him there and just went towards the Mega before trapping him after all. We're gonna get another engagement. CNZ doesn't quite hear cha1n coming around the corner.
Yeah, and got that, tagged him with that one rail shot. That's all he really needed. A second one coming out, cha1n with a great armor stack. CNZ not looking so great, waiting for his opponent to come through that murder hole, and does, and forces out the charge down to 2 points of health, somehow gets away, turns around and does a U-turn, comes out behind cha1n, and cha1n actually, I don't think he realized where he had gone to. I cannot believe that he got away. He even got away and picked up the Mega, went from about to die, bleeding, and completely cut up to alive and well once again.
I think a vital part of CNZ's playstyle moving forward is dealing and outmaneuvering cha1n's rail. cha1n has done 1,200 damage. 950 of that has been with the railgun. He's almost exclusively hit CNZ with that one particular long distance weapon. So I think that CNZ is going to be catching on to that. He knows that if he stays to that longer distance, he is going to get punished, and he'll want to either get up close or catch cha1n completely by surprise.
Yeah, which is really interesting because they're both kind of trying that a little bit. I mean, CNZ, he really is sort of molding to how he feels like he needs to play, versus cha1n, he's thrown out some great rails himself, just not exactly, you know, hitting the same amount, doing the same amount of damage. But the rails that have hit have been rails that have definitely counted, and it's why the score is still only 2-1. We got some grenades coming out from the middle section as cha1n fires them down below. The Mega is up, and the rocket does come out. It's going to grab a Mega and immediately rush out of there. Switching over to LG, cha1n now incredibly hurt, and CNZ with the rocket jump up to the top, he actually misses it, but it might pay off for him on the lower level, down to 60. cha1n with the shotgun, but off of the map he goes. 3-2. We're still only one frag separating these two.
That rail shot, I was on cha1n's perspective for that, straight through the boards of the stairs. That was a really precise pixel shot, but he landed it nevertheless. And as predicted, we're really seeing that respectful game now, right? We started off pretty aggressively, relatively speaking, but now, 5 minutes in and only 5, make that 6 frags. Not what you would expect for 2 heavies on this map.
Not what you would expect at all. In fact, very surprised after cha1n gets a couple of hits with that grenade. He decides to commit with the shotgun, and it works out for him. He actually separates his lead by another frag, making it 4-2, and we're past the halfway point in this matchup. And, I mean, both players playing exactly how I feel they need to be playing against one another. We now see CNZ's rail up to 58%. I do think that the grenades are kind of the determining factor here. Now cha1n very, very low, down to 50 points. Now CNZ with the rail to make it 4-3, but he is low.
I think cha1n realized that CNZ messed up the jump and didn't make it up to heavy, so he wanted to punish that, jumped down, went for the rail shot, but CNZ was ready for it, read him perfectly, and punished his transgression instead. Now CNZ just trailing by 1 frag, and he's got a pretty decent rotation working in his favor. He's also the faster champion of the both, but he has to be careful. cha1n is pushing aggressively, and as you mentioned yourself, we saw it with the hang, we're seeing it again now with cha1n. These grenades, they are hurting, and again, grenade into rail just a second before the heavy spawns allows cha1n yet another frag.
And again, I really feel I mean, Keel on this map can just do so much damage with those grenades, bouncing off of the pillars in the middle for that just extra damage. We saw that right there, comboed into a rocket and a rail in the previous frag. And now with 3 minutes left to go, this game is still incredibly close, 3-5. More rockets coming out as we're following cha1n. He is choosing to be in the middle right now. And I'm not surprised by this Flea because he's got that 2 frag lead. And that's probably where he's going to feel the most comfortable. Another 2 rails do come out. He thinks he knows exactly where his opponent is out, and he's also using all the rush into the mega health and runs on through, but not before taking a rocket and a rail on the exit. cha1n's been still pretty conservative with those grenades. He's not letting himself be in a situation where he has none.
We're really seeing a bit of a difference in playstyle here. cha1n is just so comfortable sitting on that top level of the map, while CNZ is left running around below, collecting resources as he keeps on eating those grenades and keeps being hit by cha1n's disastrous rail. And again, luckily for CNZ though, he does manage to finally get the high ground, doesn't get knocked down just yet. But can he make something out of this situation? He has 2 minutes left to work with. All the pressure is on him, and those rails, they just keep on coming. Every single time it feels like he has some opportunity, cha1n does that and that.
Yeah, just incredible. cha1n is very, very low, and there's still a lot of time left. He lands another rail, but finally goes down himself. 1 frag game. There it is, the shotgun to get that frag back, and Mega will be his reward. There's less than 90 seconds left to go, and I still think that this could go either way. However, you look at cha1n's stack right now, and you realize that that is going to be rough. The bull rush comes out. Rocket, rocket, rocket to the death. Another frag for cha1n. 7-4. Also, we saw the heavy picked up as well. It's going to be much, much more difficult here for CNZ, but this has just been an amazing display. 2,400 damage of the 3,900 damage coming out from cha1n is all railgun, and who knows how much grenade damage.
Absolutely, and if we're looking at the damage, cha1n has more than 1,000 damage over his opponent in total. And that, of course, is part of his playstyle. He is just sitting pretty on the top of the map, the top layer, and keeps raining down the pain from above. And CNZ hasn't really been able to find an answer to that. Every time he pushes and finds an opportunity, cha1n is there with the perfect read, the perfect positioning to shut down CNZ's efforts before he gets anywhere near him. Out comes the bull rush though. This could still be a frag for CNZ, but unfortunately for him, Pineapple into Rocket will clean it up, and that will spell the end of the first map. cha1n, player from Canada, is going to get the first map win.
Yeah, you would really think that in those close corners that maybe Scalebearer would have a little bit more advantage with that rush, but not when you have grenades and can rely on your rocket launcher, and that's exactly what cha1n did. He does take game 1, but that was a pretty exciting one. 8-5, the final score. What do you think CNZ could have done differently to try to take that map win?
I feel like one of the things that happened is that he wasn't able to keep control of the most vital positions on this map. It always felt like it was cha1n dictating the pace of the game. And of course, it's very easy said, but very difficult to do. But I feel like CNZ probably gave up the best positions a bit too easily and didn't manifest himself enough on that center area of the map, because that allows you to really dictate the pace of the game and decide which engagements you want to take, which cha1n did to perfection.
Yeah, and we saw that change over the course of the map, right? Like, I mean, there's the frag with the shotgun to the off the map. But, cha1n was using his rail early on from the outer rings and actually hit quite a few shots with his grenades from the bottom to the top, using those pillars to bounce off of. It wasn't until he then had control and had the frag lead that we really saw cha1n kind of mix it up and say, now I'm going to control that center so I can always know exactly where my opponent is. I can try to deny them items that I need to deny them, etc. Now, I mentioned it earlier. I'm really excited for this matchup between cha1n and CNZ with the Athena and Nyx here on Awoken. I really have been impressed with cha1n's Athena. We've seen Athena be used in amazing ways from a mobility perspective, but the thing that has really blown me away is how cha1n used Athena from a very aggressive and offensive perspective, using it to gain that momentum and barreling into opponent, forcing a fight, getting unique angles in the middle of a fight. Will that come out here? I don't know. We're going to find out, but I hope it does.
I would imagine that we do end up seeing quite a bit of that, because the reason behind that reasoning is that he's playing another light champion. He's not going up against someone like Keel or Ranger or Death Knight, who can just deal out a tremendous amount of damage when you bump into them and who will outstack you regardless. He's going up against the Nyx. So if he can bridge that gap and close the distance, pummel into someone head first, then I think cha1n is going to get a lot more of advantage out of such a situation than if he would against many other champions. So I do think that we're going to see quite a bit of that.
Well, I know I mentioned that, I'd find it hard to believe that any of these players could 2-0 the other, but I have to say that I'm really impressed with what we saw out of cha1n there. CNZ is a great player. I would never count him out, but I think cha1n really is playing on another level right now, and it's exciting to see because he's improved so much over the season. But CNZ's not out of it. This is a best of 3, and he's got to bring it back right here on Awoken. Flea, why don't you take us away?
Yep, starting things off, remember, if you're only just tuning in, cha1n won map 1, meaning that if he takes this one home, he will move ahead through the brackets and drop down CNZ to the lower bracket of the tournament. But still, very early stages, we're starting things off. Of course, from CNZ's point of view, he is using the Nyx, and that is a beautiful rocket to open things up. Should give him quite a bit of wiggle room, breathing room, pick up some of these items and get positioning on the Mega as well. There's 5 seconds between the major items. CNZ, with careful positioning, might be able to get both and really establish a good amount of control right here. And that's exactly what he'll do. Even secures that small green armor, leaving cha1n with, 5 points of armor to his name?
Nothing. And he hit that beautiful rocket right off of the bat, which is just kind of really put cha1n in the back corner. Misses that rail, but very, very close. Just kind of shaving a couple of the eyebrows of cha1n, and we're 1 minute in, but CNZ absolutely has the control here, and I'm very curious. I think that the key to CNZ is just sort of how he's going to use this Ghost Walk, right? He's got it as an escape. He can also use it offensively and sneaks up on cha1n here. Hits quite a bit of LG, just shocking him with just a little bit. cha1n, though, going to answer back with the rail, and CNZ says, I can do that too, putting his first frag on the board, 0-1.
That was a really solid play from CNZ, especially after the opening. It almost felt like he messed up. Now the LG is gonna push his opponent up in the air. Super Shotgun will come on through. And CNZ 2-0 up already. He's gotta be careful though. Manages to secure Mega. And cha1n is now just contenting himself with getting the weapons he needs, making his way over to the LG. Making good use of that weapon, but CNZ wants to stop him from getting the railgun. But hang on, I think there was still a railgun. Yep. during the previous fight, cha1n
Yeah.
dropped his railgun next to Mega. CNZ didn't pick that up off the floor, so that means that cha1n already has one of his best weapons.
And he's using it to high effect already here, Flea, of a little flyover rail. CNZ, who had the much better stack to start off now, has been batted down just a little bit. However, he's got the lead and some room to work with here. Now, we do have Heavy coming up here shortly. CNZ knows that timing. He's been on top of this for all of the rotations so far. Great return rail back. And are we going to have a fight here? LG coming out in the back hallways. Both players pretty low. Mega's picked up. And CNZ will just back off here just a second. But here's that respect that we were talking about. A little bit more room here on the map. And both players really, really not wanting to commit fully to the other.
Good rails from cha1n. CNZ has to retreat. Actually messes up the jump. And he's still railable. Will have to surrender Heavy to cha1n. Probably shouldn't be sticking around for Mega. Yeah, he is going to pick up on that. Get out, but he is so weak. cha1n actually leaving Mega up as bait right there. He was just sitting on the T area, that central point of the map, just waiting to see if CNZ would go for it. Actually, this Estonian is too smart for that. There we go. cha1n finally hunts him down and gets the frag.
Wow. And that puts him on the board. I'm still not even sure if CNZ thought that he had picked it up or not. And it didn't matter anyway. It's perfect rocket in the back hallways. One frag game now. And I'm really curious, CNZ, if he is just going to be looking at, you know, trying to pick off a nice rail shot or two. Again, he can use that ghost walk in a number of different ways in order to try to keep that lead or expand it out even more. We've got 6 minutes left on the clock, but so far, super impressed with what we've seen out of CNZ. He sees that the Heavy is up, and there it is. He catches just a glimpse of cha1n going down and grabbing it. He's going to use this ghost walk offensively, getting right in the face. cha1n knows that something's up, and cha1n putting him into the corner, landing a perfect rocket and tying this game back up.
That push was so unwarranted for CNZ. I don't think he had exact timing for Mega, because he showed up 5 seconds early and just kind of missed his opening shot, didn't do enough damage, and then cha1n just turned around on him with a massive stack advantage. So he really shouldn't have gone for the aggressive ghost walk right there, and he's paying the price for it now. cha1n even denying these small armors. I do wonder what's up with cha1n's LG though, because he has very rarely been using that weapon so far, and I still remember when I interviewed him during the previous stage, he said that one of the few things that he felt he still needed to work on was his LG, because he felt that it was inconsistent and one of his worst weapons. And I can kind of see that, because he's just trailing at around 30% accuracy, and really refrains from using it. He always goes for another weapon when he can.
Yeah, well, I'd be really curious to kind of find out why, and maybe he's just like, listen, I'm so confident in my rail right now, but I'm not feeling the LG, and I always say, you know, never force it if you're not feeling it. And hold on, we got to grapple up to the top. LG's completely missed. Rocket hits from afar. Follows up with that LG. Doesn't quite do what cha1n wants it to do. He's down to 50. Oh my God! The grapple to the rail, swinging through like Tarzan and taking the lead 3-2. Crazy.
I hope we get a clip from something earlier from CNZ's point of view. When cha1n went up to the railgun from Heavy, he was just looking to the left, and CNZ was standing a foot away from him to the right and just didn't move because he had almost no health to work with, and cha1n just left without spotting him. I would love to see that from CNZ's point of view, but that being said though, CNZ is actually going to be able to steal away the Heavy, has to burn the ghost walk, doesn't succeed at picking up the Mega. Slightly out of position. I think if he had picked up Mega, that would have been his frag, but just misses it by a step or two.
I agree, and both players kind of upping their aggression just a little bit. CNZ falling down to the heavy. He gets railed out of mid-air. 5-2 now, and cha1n, who was down by 2 early on, has suddenly in the last 2.5 minutes turned this back not only into his favor, but into a 3-frag lead as well. And I mentioned, Flea, that I feel like the aggression has gone up just a little bit. That's going to help the person who is in the lead, but it can also work against the individual who's fighting from behind. Eventually, you do have to get aggressive. I don't know if CNZ is just a little worried that as the clock continues to tick down and there's 3 minutes, having to chase an Athena, around the map. I don't know, but definitely CNZ looks like he's picking up that aggression, like he's getting into urgency mode.
And he absolutely has to as well. 2.5 minutes left on the clock. 3 frags to make up. No easy task for the player from Estonia, representing B100, but still it is possible. However, as you said yourself, chasing down an Athena, that is difficult. Luckily for him, he's got that aggressive Ghost Walk to work with, but I think cha1n might have hurt him. Because cha1n started moving the moment that ability got popped, so I think the Canadian picked up on that, comes barreling into the room, rockets are sublime, and down drops CNZ once more. This is looking dire.
There is just a whatever this is, like a flow that cha1n is finding. Like, he's looking for that perfect wave, and he's like, nope, not that one, not that one. And then when he catches it, he just goes for it. And again, that's exactly what we've seen out of his Athena in the past. He's now up to 8-2. He has completely flipped this game in his favor and on its head. And I don't know what CNZ can do at this point. We've seen some of those aggressive grapples come out, and sometimes it doesn't even look like they're going to take cha1n anywhere, but he just gets the momentum. He wants to go into a fight hot and heavy, and CNZ with a great rail out of the air, finally reading a great read on that grapple. But 1.5 minutes remaining, or less than, Flea, and 5 frags to make up.
The only thing that he can do is land the rails. That's it. He can't really get close in any other way, and if he doesn't open with opening rail damage, there is just nothing that CNZ can do. Has to get the frag here, should be able to. 1 minute for frag, still possible, but the pressure is so severe right now in CNZ. He needs to land every single railgun shot because Athena is so slippery, she won't let you get close with the rockets.
That's exactly right, and that's a super tall order, especially because cha1n knows it too. He can still be aggressive up to a frag or 2 and probably get away with it as every second ticks by, Flea. It just makes it easier for him to do, and he's just doing the dance right now here on Awoken. Many players have been in this situation before. The lead expands a little bit, and then you find yourself unable to catch up. And I honestly didn't think it could happen, but here we are, and cha1n will advance further on in the bracket with a 2-0 over CNZ.
Well played. CNZ will be dropping down to the lower bracket, so he still has a lifeline through this tournament, but this was a very well-deserved win for cha1n. The Canadian player, he just outplayed CNZ pretty consistently. First map, second map, especially towards the end, even when there were sometimes signs of life on the CNZ camp, it just never really went anywhere because cha1n at that point has such a good defensive game that he will keep shutting you down with the railgun time and time again.
ZSX, welcome back. What do you think of that one?
Controlled. It was calm. He never looked like slipping up, really. I enjoyed it, and I think as Flea said, like, the railgun was just superb. The angles he creates, the ways he can use it without being seen effectively is just remarkable. So really enjoyed that, and unfortunately for CNZ, wasn't his day.
It wasn't. I mean, despite still some great plays coming out from CNZ. Flea, your final thoughts on this matchup here? Some of these frags, by the way, just amazing.
Yeah, I'm distracted by watching the highlight reel because there are so many good ones. You could fill a top 10 plays with just what we saw this time around. But yeah, final thoughts. cha1n is looking extremely strong. but I really don't think that CNZ has to hang his head just yet, right? He put up some good efforts, made a few misplays like that one. I still can't wrap my head around the blind push without having the exact timing on Mega, and then getting shut down. Look at this rail, though. I love to see it. cha1n just used the Athena so expertly, and even though Nyx is still a very mobile character, you don't have the same speed that you do with the grapple hook.
Yeah, it will, you know, hindsight's always 2020, but was that aggressive Ghost Walk the thing that kind of turned the tides on that one? You know, I don't know, but I agree with you, Flea. I think that was a little risky, and you know, you take risks in Quake, and sometimes they can put you very far ahead, and other times they can turn the tide, which is, I think, what we did see there. cha1n takes it in 2 maps, and now we are going to take a quick break. But ladies and gentlemen, we return. The Stage 1 finals for the QPL will continue in our final 2 matchups of the day. Coming up next, it's Razy versus Effortless. Don't go away. We'll be right back.